All right, so here's negative 7. We all agreed with negative 7. What do I do with that negative 7 now? Multiply. Negative 7 times x is? Negative 7x. Negative 7 times 5 is?
Negative 35.
But we always need to do what? Subtract. And when we're subtracting, what actually happens to each of the signs? They change. Okay? So that means this one's going to become a, and this one's going to become a. And the whole option, the whole point is that these should cancel out. And they do. But we have negative 48 and positive 35. When you add those together, what do you get?
13.
A number.
Negative 13. Now, there's a remainder. When you write your remainder, you have to write, you don't put R negative 13. That's like 3rd grade math, okay? You're in high school. I know, shocking. But, so what we do is we go plus negative 13 over, and what are we dividing by?
0. Bruh. What?
X plus 5. This ends up being my answer when it doesn't divide evenly.
That looks so wild.
Okay, so would we say is x plus 5 a factor?
No.
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 Okay. Now, long division takes time. Okay? But you guys can do it. You guys are smart. Okay. But there is a shortcut. Long division? Oh, a shortcut that always works.
Why do you always tell us at the end that there's a shortcut?
Because I want you to like it.
It's like going down a freeway and then someone telling you there's a shortcut.
All right. Synthetic division is a shortcut to long division. So if you notice here, this first problem that we already did, same problem using synthetic division. And we're going to see how they connect. Okay, are you guys ready? All right. Okay. We're back to notes. Back to notes. Okay. First thing I want you to do, okay? Now remember, when I'm teaching you, it takes a little bit longer, but it's going to go quicker once I've taught you at least at one time, okay? So we have x minus 1.
Is there a shortcut?
This is it. Okay. And if we were to take x minus 1 and we set it equal to 0, I end up getting what value for x?
1.
Positive 1.
Positive 1.
Okay. So, do we all understand why this makes x equals 1?
Yes.
Okay. You don't normally have to show this work. I just want you to have it in your notes so you know where we're getting these numbers from. Okay. Based on this being 1, you are going to make like a little half box over here. And this 1 right here is what I'm putting in that box. Okay. So you could make an actual box if you want to. For some reason, I always make it like this. Okay. You can do whatever you want.
That's real art method.
You're welcome. I did take art in college. Okay. No. We just want you to know that this number is your factor.
Oh. Wait, what did they say?
Okay.
Bro, what else would it be? It's not a 2.
Well, okay. So, whatever this number ends up becoming, in this case it was 1, I'm putting that number in this little box, or whatever we want to call it, okay? Whatever this would be, okay, is here. Okay, now, the next thing is we are going to take the coefficients of every single term, going in descending order. What is the coefficient on this term? 1. So I'm going to write a 1 down. That's a number 1. Okay. The next coefficient is a
6.
I'm going to leave a little space and I'm going to write a 6. The next number
7. -7.
is a -7. Bless you.
Bless you.
Okay. Now, we're going to end up, focus. We are going to end up writing some numbers here. So you want to leave a little bit of space and then I'm going to draw a line. Okay? And when we're doing this, we're going to end up adding down, just so you know. So we're going to put a plus sign there. So let's recap everything that we've done so that hopefully we are not confused. First thing is that x minus 1, if I set that equal to 0, I get the value of 1. This value got put right here. Next, I went to each of the terms here, and I took my coefficient for each term. So the coefficient for x squared is 1. The coefficient for 6x was 6, and then my last number that doesn't have a variable is -7. That's where I got those numbers from, was from my problem there. Is everybody good with all these numbers?
Yes.
Okay, now when you start, you always bring down this first number, and so since it's a 1, I'm going to bring that straight down, and I'm going to write a 1 here. Okay, next we are going to multiply, okay? You multiply this number to our boxed number. 1 times 1 is, and that number goes underneath the 6. And we always add down. Just go with me for a minute. We're going to practice this, okay? And you're going to see the connection, okay? Okay, 6 plus 1 makes what?
7.
Okay, then we multiply. 7 times 1 is 7. And we add down and we get 0. Now hold on, and I'm going to put another box right here. This box right here is always my remainder. Is there? That's your divisor. Okay? Dividend. Divisor. I don't know. Okay. I'm having a hard time today. Okay, this is a remainder. Okay, now look at this and look at this and tell me if you notice any connections.
Oh my gosh. It's the coefficient.
It's your coefficients. Okay? Now, we were dividing by an x. Okay? We were dividing out an x, which means that whatever your highest exponent is, you've divided out an x from that. So you're going to go down by 1 degree, 1 exponent. So instead of starting with x squared, this one is going to be 1x, and then you go down by another one, and there will be no x's left, and so you get your 7. Normally, we wouldn't write a 1 in front of there, okay? So this is x plus 7, which is exactly what we got over here doing long division. Now, remember that all of this is new. When you do something that's new, it is slightly confusing because you've never done it before. Okay, so we're going to try again with another problem, and we're going to practice it, but we're just going to do synthetic division. Because if you look at this and you look at this, there really is a lot more or a lot less work with synthetic division. Okay, so here we go. Are you ready? Who knows what value is going to go in this box here to the side?
2. No, 2.
Positive 2, because if you set that equal to 0, it equals 2, okay? So we are going to put a 2 there. Okay, who remembers the next thing we do?
We put the coefficients.
Coefficients from each of these terms. Okay, Nick, please stop. So we're going to go what? We're going to do what first? What number?
1.
1, 5, negative 21, negative 9. The 1 came from my x cubed, and then we got the 5 from the x squared, the negative 21 from the x, and then the negative 9. Okay, now I'm going to draw a line and leave room for my numbers. And we bring down our first term, which is going to be a 1. And then each term that we bring down here, we multiply it with the number in our box. Okay, 1 times 2 is 2. And we always will add down. What is 5 plus 2? 7. And then we go 7 times 2, which is?
14.
And we add down, and I get? And negative 7 times 2 is? And I add down, and what do I get?
23.
Negative 23. Now, based on there being a remainder, is this a factor?
No.
No. So right down here, is x minus 2 a factor? The answer is no. And we forgot to answer it up here, but was x minus 1 a factor on this problem?
Yes.
Yes, and I knew that because
There was no remainder.
there was no remainder. This was the same problem. Was it a factor? Yes. And again, I knew it was yes because there was, you can't see what I was writing, but I was pointing to that. Okay. So going back to this problem here, we want to write our answer. Okay. Now, since this started at a third power, we were only dividing out an x. So that means when I write this first one, I'm going down by 1 power. So what is the first thing I'm going to write? 1x squared. Or you could just write x squared. And then it's going to be
7x
plus 7x. And then it's going to be minus 7. Now, because I have a remainder, how do I write that? Plus negative 23 over, and I was dividing by x minus 2. And this is my answer. Question?
How did you get the x squared and the 7x?
So these right here are the coefficients. So this one is that one. This 7 is that 7. This one is this one. Okay? Since the problem was starting with an x cubed and we were dividing out an x, you would go down 1 from your highest exponent. And that's how I got to x squared. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to do the next one. We're going to do this together as well. Okay? Now, some of you might have done it wrong, so there's a little trick on this one. Yes, question.
Ethan wants to know, why do you go down 1?
Wait, why do you go down by 1?
Yeah.
Because we're dividing out an x. So if this is x cubed and you divide x cubed divided by x, you reduce it by 1, it becomes an x squared. So we're dividing by x minus 2, we're dividing by an x. If you have x cubed divided by x, what does that make? X squared. So in this synthetic division problem, we're dividing by a single x, which means that when you have your answer, you're going down by an exponent. Okay, what number is going to go in this box here? Negative 2. Okay, now there is something I want you guys to be aware of. If you are looking at the descending order on this problem, do you see that it's missing an x squared term? You have to put a 0 in for x squared. This is not going to happen very often, but it can happen. So what do I mean by that? When you're writing your coefficients in descending order, what's the coefficient of this one? 1. And this one is 3. Because there is no x squared term, it has a coefficient of 0. Okay? And then you have a 6 and a negative 2. You will not see this happen very often, but it can happen. Okay? Yes. Okay, what will I do first here? Bring down your 1. Do you guys want to go ahead and finish this one on your own right now? Okay. Okay, if you have a question, I will walk around and help you real quick.
So it's like a placeholder. So because when you're like you even so multiply it and getting an X squared. And so you have to, if there isn't a number like
I got to come to 0. I put a -2 and I don't know why not.
Did you get negative 22 for your remainder?
Okay, if you got negative 22 as your remainder, you probably did the problem correct. If you didn't get negative 22 as your remainder, you did something wrong. Okay. So, we bring down the 1. 1 times negative 2 is? So you're going to look. Negative 2. When we add down, 3 and negative 2 makes what?
1.
Okay. 1 times negative 2 is? Add down. What's 0 and negative 2? Negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 makes a?
4.
Add down and you get? 10. 10 times negative 2 is? We add down and we get? Negative 22. And this value is my remainder. Okay, so let's go ahead and write this out. Since this problem started with x to the 4th, and we were dividing out an x, this first one is going to start as what? X to the 3rd. I can put a 1 in front if I want to, but I don't have to write the 1. My next term is going to be x squared. Again, you can write the 1 if you want to, but you don't have to. The next, so if you want to put these each as 1s, you can. The next one will be minus 2x, and then it will be, and then we do our remainder as negative 22 over, and whatever we're dividing by, in this case we're dividing by x plus 2. Okay, if you had to do long division, this would have gone really, really long. Okay, and I'll show you. But, okay, is this a factor, yes or no?
No.
How do you know that?
Because the remainder ain't 0.
Very good. Okay, now we're moving to the back side.
Here's the back side.
Okay,
Bruh,
while this doesn't look the same,
That's next 33.
it is the same.
today's the 26th.
Okay? This is telling you a polynomial f of x and a factor. They're telling you that x minus 5 is a factor. Okay? They want you to factor it completely. We are going to use synthetic division. Okay? So, what value is going to go in my box here?
5.
A positive 5. Okay. Now, what values will I write next now?
A 1.
1.
Negative 1. Negative 17.
Good.
Negative 15.
Okay. Some of you need to redeem yourselves to get this one correct, so I'm going to give you a minute to try this on your own. You should end up with a remainder of 0.
Yes.
Okay. Do this problem. We are on notes. We are on the back side of our notes. We are doing this.
Hey, give me that. I did this wrong. Oh, I know what I mean.
I did it. Hey, dang it.
I thought it was
Oh,
like
I-
negative.
Okay.
Okay, that was.
Okay. Question? You got it?
You're officially opening that.
Hey, but you gotta write the thing on the.
When he gets his green beans and forget to pants off.
I hit like 3 of those.
Oh, yeah, great, man.
I'll let your friend make me hang out.
Okay. All right. So we are bringing this down. We get a 1. Remember that this multiplies to this number. This is your multiplication number. Shh. 1 times 5 is 5. We add down and we get 4. 4 times 5 is
20.
we add down and we get
-3.
positive 3. 3 times 5 is
Okay.
15. We add down and we get 0. Okay, so I want us to understand, because this is important for our unit that we're in right now, is that right now x minus 5 is a factor. Okay, if I'm factoring this out, x minus 5 is a factor, and then I'm left with this part, and we always go down by 1 exponent because we divided out an x. So that means I have x squared plus 4x plus 3. Is everybody okay with that? Can I factor it further? Yes is the correct answer. And the exciting part about it being yes is that we have a shortcut for this part now. Because my coefficient is 1, my multiplication number is what? My multiplication number is
3.
my adding number is 4. What numbers will work? 1 and 3. 1 and 3 add to be 4, D'Angelo, and 1 times 3 multiplies to be 3. We learned today that we can not do the whole grouping thing only when our coefficient in front of here is 1. And so what would be my 2 parentheses here?
X plus 3. Oh.
X plus 1, X plus 3. Could I have written X plus 3 and X plus 1? Yes. The order doesn't matter. Okay? What matters is if these are positives or negatives. Okay? And this is it. And do you see I showed my work on factoring? This is my work for factoring. Okay. Yes?
How do you know when you have to do that part?
The extra part?
Yeah.
Like this right here?
Yeah.
You always want to check if you can factor further.
Oh, okay.
Always. Okay?
Always?
Yes. Because so I was showing you guys the process of all this, but for what we're doing for this unit, it's going to factor because we're going to end up being able to graph it and plot it on here. Okay? So, next one. What number for this one is going to go in my box? -3. Double check that we have descending order. We do. I don't have to add any zeros in. What would be my numbers?
1, -1, -8, and 12.
Good. Shh. Okay. Now, they already told me it's a factor, so I should get 0 here. If they're telling you something's a factor, then it should be a 0. Okay? So the first thing we do is bring down our 1. 1 times negative 3 is? And we are adding down. When you had two negatives, you add them and it's negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 3 is a 12. We add down and we get
4.
And 4 times negative 3 is?
Negative 12.
And we add down and it does make 0. So let's write this out. We have this factor, which is x plus 3, and then this right here becomes what? X squared minus 4x plus 4. Okay, see if you guys can do the shortcut and finish factoring this one.
Give up on everything.
Okay, you guys ready?
No, wait a second.
1 second.
Okay, so my multiplication number is 4. My adding is, what numbers will work?
Negative 2, negative 2.
Negative 2, negative 2. Is everybody good with that? Do those add to be negative 4? Do they multiply to be positive 4? Yes.
So just a second. Okay, so you know how you write out here x plus 3 and then x minus 2 and then x minus 2?
Yes.
For the next one,
Uh-huh.
can you group them together?
Yeah,
Like put them as
yes. That's what you have to do. Very good. Okay, so my two parentheses are going to be x minus 2 and x minus 2. Does everybody agree with that? Because you have two that are exactly the same, and Calissa just mentioned this to us, we want to write that as a squared term. So that means I really have x plus 3 and x minus 2 squared. Okay, so anytime you have two factors that are the same, you want to write them as that factor squared. Okay? So now we're putting it all together. This has been long, I know. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. This is the finale. Okay. All right. Question? No. Okay. Right here, it says, given 1, 0. What does that mean when they say 0?
You have 1, 0.
A 0 is a point that it's a 0 on the x-axis. It's where it's touching the x-axis. So they are saying that they're giving you 1, 0, and that 0 is a 3. Now, if I were to write that, if I were to write this as a factor, this actually means what in parentheses?
0.
Very good. X minus 3. Because if that's going to be a 0 on our x-axis in factored form, that would actually be x minus 3, because you would set it equal to 0 and you get the positive 3, correct?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. Now, we are going to use synthetic division in order to continue to factor this. We can use synthetic division because they told me one of the zeros is 3. Okay, that's how I know I can use synthetic division. It's only when they tell me a factor or when they tell me something is a 0. Okay, so in my box here, I'm going to put the number what? 3.
Remember 0.
Okay, my other numbers are going to be what?
2.
2, 5, negative 28, negative 15. And we're going to factor. We'll use our synthetic division. That's going to help us to be factoring. Okay. So we bring down our first number, which is 2. Then what do I do? Multiply. 2 times 3 makes 6. Add down and I get 11 times 3 is? We add down and we get 5. 5 times 3 is? We add down and we get?
0.
Okay. So, when I'm writing this, because I need to write each of my factors, this is one of my factors, okay? So, we are going to write this right now as x minus 3, and then my other parenthesis is going to be what? 2x squared plus 11x plus 5. Am I able to use my shortcut on this one?
No.
No, why not?
Because it has a
there's
2.
number.
Yeah, because there's a number in front. So we have to do the long way on this one.
What do you mean long way?
When you do the grouping,
Oh, okay.
okay?
I thought you meant long division.
No, not long division. Okay, so 2 times 5 is? So my multiplication number is 10, and my adding number is 11. What numbers will work?
10.
Very good. Both of them will be positive. Those add to be 11, multiply to be 10. Okay, remember we split these up. So I rewrite this, 2x squared, and then I have plus 1x plus 10x plus 5. And then we have to factor by grouping. Take out an x, we're left with 2x plus 1. Out of the second group, I can factor out a 5. I'm left with 2x plus 1. Okay, which means this ends up becoming what? 2x plus 1, x plus 5, and we need to not forget x minus 3. Okay. At this point, this should all be like familiar in terms of the next thing we're doing is we're finding our zeros. We're finding the points on the x-axis. Okay? This is going to be x equals what? 3. Will it pass or bounce? Because why? Multiplicity of 1. Can you guys do this one in your head? What is it? Negative 1/2. Okay, because you'd subtract 1 and then divide by 2. Pass or bounce? And this last one is going to be? Pass or bounce? Okay, so we go down here. We're going to mark these. So at 3, pass. Negative 1/2, pass. Negative 5, pass. Okay? Few things I notice. First of all, I don't know how. Yes, question.
Well, I'll let you finish.
Okay. Whatever you want. Okay.
Is there no y-intercept?
There is a y-intercept, but we don't know what it is, right? So we have to find it. Yes. Good job. My y-intercept. Go back to when it's not factored. If we plug 0, this would be 0, 0, 0, and my y-intercept is going to be negative 15. Because if we plug in 0 for x, in order to find the y-intercept, it makes a 0, a 0, a 0, and then we get that. So my y-intercept is 0, negative 15. So on my graph, I'm going to mark a negative 15 and put a point there. Okay, now what else do I need? Good. Degree, lead coefficient, right in behavior, left in behavior. What's my degree? 3. So the 3's up here, or if you count it here, 1, 2, 3. Okay, lead coefficient is what? 2, and specifically is that it is a positive. My right in behavior is then going to be, and my left is. So I need to mark these on my graph now. Right side goes to positive, left side goes to negative. Okay? And now you want to fill in the rest. So, can you do it on your own? Give it a try, and then I'll do it so you can check it. So, it should be passing through. It turns around. It passes through. It's going to go down. It has to touch the y-intercept here. And then it's going to turn around, and it passes through, and it all connects. Okay. Last one. I feel like we need the practice. I know this is taking forever. I think you guys are okay. Yes, question.
So like, you know how you do the shortcut by finding instead of doing the multiplication and adding?
You're still doing the multiplication and adding. You just don't have to break it down and do grouping.
Okay, but how do you know when you can do the shortcut?
You can do the shortcut when the number in front of your squared term is 1. Okay. Are you guys ready? Here we go. We'll do this together. What value is going to go here?
5. Positive.
Oh wait, we can't see.
You said it equals through it.
Okay, so this really means x plus 5 in order to get it to be a negative 5. Good. So what goes in that box? Negative 5.
5.
Look at the previous example as well. All they're doing is they're telling you, they told you the 0. They told you the x-intercept. But in factored form, it looks like this. And when you set it equal to 0, it gives you that. They're telling you the 0, which is actually the opposite when it's in parentheses. Okay, what are the other numbers that I'm going to write down? Okay, they also told us it's a 0, which means that there will be no remainder. So we know we should get a 0 here. Okay, we bring this down, we have a 1. What's next? 1 times negative 5 is? 1 times negative 5? Negative 5. We add down, we get 4. Okay, 4 times negative 5 is? We add down and we get 4. 4 times negative 5 is? And we get? 0. Very good. So, when we're writing out each of the factors, what am I going to write? Very good. Don't forget your x plus 5. And then we have?
X plus 2 squared. Oh, 4. That's not.
Good. Okay. Can I use my shortcut for factoring this one? How do I know that? Very good. There's a 1 in front. If there's a 1, you're good. If it's anything other than 1, you can't do the shortcut. Okay, so my multiplication number is a 4, and my adding number is a 4, and the numbers that work are 2 and 2. So when I write this out, I have x plus 5, x plus 2, and x plus 2, but I like what Devin said, and that is that I should really write this as x plus 5 and x plus 2 squared. Okay, so we set these equal to 0. Am I going too fast? Okay, this one is x equals what? And is that going to pass or bounce? Pass, because it's a multiplicity of 1. Very good. This one is going to be x equals pass or bounce. Why? Multiplicity of 2. Very good. So when I go to the graph and I mark these, what? When I go to the graph and mark them, I have negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a pass. At negative 2, that's a bounce. Okay? I am missing information.
Y-intercept.
Okay, what will be my y-intercept?
0, 20.
Very good. 0, 20. And that's easy to go back here and find it. right? Because we plug in 0 for each of these. Now, you can plug in 0 here, and you'd get 0 plus 5 is 5, 0 plus 2 is 2, 0 plus 2 is 2, and you multiply 5 times 2 times 2, and you would still get 20. It's just easier up there. So my y-intercept is 0, 20. So we make a mark, call it 20, make a point. Now, I still don't have enough information to graph. Calissa.
The right side. Like we don't have a right side.
Your right side is going to actually just be the furthest point to the right, and in this case, it's going to be our y-intercept. Okay, so what other things do I need in order to graph?
Degree.
Degree. What's my degree?
3.
3. What's my leading coefficient? Which is positive. Because of that, my right end behavior is positive infinity. My left end behavior is
Negative infinity.
so. Now I'm going to mark that on my graph. My furthest point right, which is my y-intercept, goes up. My furthest point left goes down. This passes through, turns around. When it bounces, it just turns around right there and goes the other direction. And you have it done.